Hello, beautiful souls. Somebody told me a story once about a Nazi concentration camp survivor. And this person was asked how they managed to get through such a horrific experience. And they answered, no matter how bad things got in the camp, I knew for sure that it could be worse. All I had to do was watch the prison guards and give thanks that that was not I. And that sense of gratitude and the identity it gave them the strength to persevere. Now, this person may not have been aware of it, but they were using a powerful spiritual technique for strength and healing, the transmutation of emotions. Even in the worst of conditions, they were able to turn the paralyzing emotion of fear into the life-sustaining ones of courage and gratitude. In my last video, we talked about how emotions are fluid and how we can step into observer mode. Today, I want to give you a practical tool to help you work with and master your emotions, transmuting them from negative ones to positive ones that can help you to deal with any situation with grace. I'd like to introduce you to the Hawkins Scale of Consciousness, named after scientist and spiritual leader David Hawkins. This simple diagram demonstrates emotions as a spectrum going from the really low emotions like guilt and shame all the way up to the highest emotions like love, joy, and peace. And we can use this tool to recognize how to work with emotions. The basic idea is that when we visualize emotions as a spectrum instead of as a state of being, we realize that we are not our emotions. We can take our emotional energy and shift it up or down the scale at will with practice. A good example of this is shame to anger. Did you ever feel anger flaring up in your mind when somebody points out something about you that you're secretly ashamed of? I have to admit that's happened to me. And that kind of a reaction is a natural emotional defense. But unfortunately, it's not enough to pull you into the higher frequencies. For that, we usually need to use our self-awareness and do this process in a mindful way, okay? And that's where this chart comes in handy. So if you notice, right in the middle, there's this line between pride and courage. That's the line that separates the lower emotions that feed negative energies or entities from the higher emotions which support higher consciousness. When we can shift a lower emotion into something at least at the level of courage and above, then we are really doing that positive spiritual work in the world that will actually change the world for the better, okay? Even if it's just one person, recognize that the higher up the pyramid you go, the higher frequency it is and the more actual power it has in the world. So as you as an individual can shift an energy from anger or fear or guilt or shame up to even the level of courage, you're being a really powerful spiritual warrior right there, and you are making a difference. So let me explain this pride courage line. I think it exists because sometimes we use pride to overcome fear, okay? We actually saw this in that prisoner example I gave earlier. There was an aspect of pride as well as gratitude to that expression of, at least I'm not the guard. Right? We can also see this a lot in people who have overcome certain things and found some kind of belief system that helped them through that's very rigid. And that brings them into this place where they feel secure and superior because they've been able to overcome their fear through clinging onto the system, but then they can't see how the system itself isn't able to grow with them and help them past that point. Okay, so pride can be helpful to a point, but if you can't learn to move past it, it becomes a spiritual dead end, and sometimes a very dangerous one. And we can see that on this chart, okay, when we see that emotion of pride, that it's somewhere between, but it's not one of the higher emotions, okay? So courage, on the other hand, allows you to move past rigid belief systems altogether and actually face and seek the truth. And when we enter courage, that's when we're starting to get into the realm of the heart, okay? And that is the key to both spiritual growth and true freedom. Courage doesn't mean that you're not feeling fear, but it does mean that you're able to feel that fear and look it squarely in the face and then make a rational decision. Not based on your animal instincts, but based on what your heart tells you to do, okay? To do the right thing despite being afraid. That's courage, and that is huge. The other emotion that I want to really point out is gratitude. Gratitude is a super high emotion that's relatively easy to jump to, even from a very low frequency emotion, okay? So we can go from very low frequency to very high frequency in one big leap when we're working with gratitude. So I feel like the emotion of anger can be turned fairly easily into gratitude. Next time you feel anger, you can start looking at, well, maybe this situation sucks. Maybe I'm angry about it, but what can I be grateful for in here? Sometimes it's the lesson itself that we learn through whatever it is that's making us angry, okay? So these are hard times that we're in right now. And it's not going to be like this forever, but things may get worse before they get better. If you have incarnated on the planet at this time, and if you're feeling the call to bring more light into the world, you are here for a reason. There's a reason you came in right now. You are a powerful spiritual warrior and creator, and your emotions act both as a sword of light and a tool of creation. And the most powerful thing we can do right now as light workers is to learn to master our emotional responses. That's what lets us stop being prisoners or victims of darkness and start freely creating beautiful lives for ourselves and others. So I encourage you to use this tool, familiarize yourself with it, and see what kind of shift it makes in your life when you start to use it or be mindful of these emotions, and how you can actually change them powerfully with your own will. Right? In my next video of this series, we're going to talk about how to work with your thoughts in the same way that we work with emotions. And probably before that, I'll be posting my November 2025 energy update. So subscribe if you haven't yet. Thank you for everything that you're doing to make a difference in this world. And remember, you were born to be free.